So we'll get into our first story. Obviously, there's been some new developments in Michael Proctor's bid, I guess, for his civil to get back his job and his civil status within the Massachusetts State Police. But look what we just found here. Newly discovered texts from fired Karen Reed investigator Michael Proctor could impact hundreds, not just a few, hundreds of cases, a legal expert says. And the good thing is we have our own legal expert on here tonight, so she'll be able to talk a little bit about this. And of course, Todd being a former Massachusetts State Police. I'm not going to read a ton of the article here, but former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor's own words are the scandal that keeps on building in Norfolk County ever since the federal investigation revealed that the lead investigator from the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office texted lewd and derogatory comments about Karen Reed, defense attorney, also fighting to get that evidence to use in other criminal cases. So they look back, 2013. Oops, maybe he forgot what he had on his phone, but the black and white data never lies. And he's obviously been in his bid to appeal to get his job back. He just obviously withdrew that bid because of everything that's been disclosed. But I want to go down here. That says, where was it in the article? Sources tell WBZI team the context of the texts include racial slurs and inappropriate language. The new discovery was enough for the disgraced trooper to withdraw his appeal to get back his job after being fired in Massachusetts State Police in March. I'm going to go to Todd first. Todd, what are your thoughts? And we're seeing the ripple effect here across not just a couple of cases that we've been watching, now hundreds. What are your thoughts on this, Todd?
Let me start with, and I want to outline this for the chat. Proctor's defense, and here's the irony. Proctor's defense was going to be twofold. One, my charges aren't as bad as other people that have been disciplined within the department, right? So that is that strategy. But the ironic part is that he's claiming that the state police selected offenses and then tried to build the case. Does that sound vaguely familiar as a strategy, the Karen Reed investigation?
Go ahead, Nan. It sounds very, very familiar.
Yes.
The irony, it's just you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking a page out of another playbook, which sounds very familiar. I love the strategies that you pull out of this, Todd, and it absolutely was a twofold approach by Proctor. I mean, I have so much to say, but when I heard this last week, and it might have been when I was driving up to New England, and I was like, oh my God, I need to hear all about this. And I'm thinking to myself, I never would have filed the appeal if I were Proctor, because it completely backfired and he did not think it through. I think he lied to his attorney. I've been lied to by clients many times, and I try to tell them when I meet them in cases when I know that their credibility matters. You got to tell me the truth now. Are you hiding any skeletons in your closet? Because I have my own reputation to protect. I don't want to lose credibility before a quote unquote tribunal. And that is a little bit of, I'm sure, what his attorney weighed in his own mind. And probably his attorney gave him some guidance at the time, right prior to withdrawing the appeal, which was, I can't go any further with you. You tied my hands on this. You made me think you were this puppies and rainbow kind of guy who was getting a bad rap. And like his Proctor's wife had exclaimed, oh, it was really only this one incident where he exhibited this type of behavior. Meanwhile, it was a completely egregious pattern of abuse of process, abuse of his privilege and his responsibilities as a state trooper, which, by the way, Brian, back when this broke prior to the appeal, And when the text came out, I remember last year you saying this wasn't the first
Not
time
the
that
only thing.
this guy was texting this way. And if
Yeah.
any of us thought that, we would be fools. So I agree with you, Todd, wholeheartedly.
Yeah, this is we talked about it. I think we talked about it multiple times, in trial 1, trial 2, excuse me, and then, when Karen's case was basically settled, when this all came out, I mean, we had multiple conversations about this, like, when someone has a pattern of this,
Right.
and Karen's case was just the tip of the iceberg in this, but if you're having those derogatory conversations and saying the things that you were, shaming someone's body, their medical issues, there's other things that you're doing, and come to find out that is, and this just even gets worse now. We have the racial slur implications. We now, I think, there's another article I'm going to pull up here too, that they talked about passing nudes around or of a victim, and this is just the constant behavior of Michael Proctor, but not only Michael Proctor, who else is he engaging with in these
Mm-hmm.
text messages? Are there other troopers or other superiors? And yeah, we did find that out in with Karen's case. I believe Tully was in those text messages. Buchanan was in there, superiors, and they didn't face any consequences over this, which was strange. They're having their other parts and share in all of this, but it just I want to know who else. Is there other people that are higher in power that were involved, and what public people were given case information that shouldn't be out there, that should be scrutinized and looked at? Go ahead, Todd.
Brian, you may see on the part of Colonel Noble, with new information coming up, they could reopen the investigation and, seek to discipline, the other troopers out of that Norfolk County DA's office. So again, as we've seen, here for several years, this is a story that keeps on giving. I wanted to share tonight. We all, you know, we, we know people that were strongly against Karen, and some of those folks were on the state police. In
Sure.
the usual line that I would hear was, "Just wait till everything comes out. Just wait till everything comes out." And I heard that over and over and over again. And the only thing that ever came out was more indictment of the troopers out of that office.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, across the
Todd,
board.
let me ask you a question, and I love this question. I love this statement by Thomas T in the chat. He says, "When your union drops you, you're screwed." I want to ask you, what is if you can just let us know, what is the conversation among your peers, and the people that stood beside you in your profession as a Massachusetts State Police officer? What is the tone that they're saying? I'm sure there's probably a lot of troopers that do things by the book like you did in your career that are very upset as well too, or maybe even just other law enforcement officers that or entities that you interact with in your daily life. Give us what they're saying about this.
So there are, as I mentioned, there are those who just have a hard line perspective. But I will tell you this, and this isn't just with troopers; these are with other police officers from other departments, that initially they weren't paying all that close attention to the case,
Mm,
but as it started to pick up with the media attention, they really started to kind of like sharpen the lens and try and follow the case a little bit more. And those police officers did a 180. Like, she's
Mm-hmm.
innocent, without a doubt, she's
wow.
an innocent. So, I don't want to say it's 50-50. I've seen more law enforcement professionals that understand the case, the evidence that was presented, um, and all the things about the investigation. No one can agree. Not one person can validate the investigation, which is interesting. They may have a feeling of Karen Reed is guilty, but all of them to a person says the investigation was shoddy at best.
There's got to be, but there's got to be, friends of yours that are just so pissed about this Michael Proctor thing, because it's literally, it's putting a bad mark on the Mass State Police, And look, we've had a history of this, and we've been fighting in Massachusetts to get this cleaned up. And Colonel Noble has now come in and is saying that he's going to clean things up, but it's just one thing after another after another. I mean, they must be pissed, right?
Troopers will take the position that, if a person puts themselves in a jackpot, and the department's going to respond, and through whatever trial board process, whatever the outcome is, and they pretty much move on from it. So, is there departmental harm? Was there damage? Was there, a black eye in the state police? All the above, right? So, all those things apply. But at the end of the day, the position is, well, he made his bed. Now he's going to lie in it.
Yeah.
And I can just add to that. So there's been some recent criticism of some of the rulings or behaviors of female judges on some of the cases that we've been talking about. And I just want to draw a juxtaposition because, as a lawyer, when there are female lawyers or jurists who are exhibiting behavior of whatever type that may call the whole profession into question for jurists or lawyers,
Mm.
or may call female jurists or lawyers into question, I cringe a little bit about that if they're overly emotional on the bench and the like. And we saw an example, in my opinion, with Kelsey Fitzsimmons in recent weeks, where the judge who had revoked her bail, everyone kind of said, "Whoa, what went on here?" And I just wanted to give my perspective that kind of Todd is giving, which is, when it's your profession and it's someone in your profession who might arguably be calling into question the manner in which they are comporting themselves, it does cause you to reflect a little bit and say, "Ooh, that doesn't really look so good." But I believe in general, what happens as a result of things like this is that troopers now will realize, okay, I got to behave. I got to make sure I comport myself as a good citizen and a good protector of citizens. So I'm hoping that Proctor, if there's anything good to come out of all of this, is that Proctor will serve as an example of what not to do, and that Big Brother can be watching. And certainly, at a minimum, he should serve as an example of maybe you need to delete your iCloud. Make sure you're going to be smart about how you cover your tracks, because it will come back to bite you.
Or how about this? Just don't get involved in activity like that, Nan.
Right.
Stay by the books, do your job, and any
Yeah.
activity that you want to have, do it in the privacy of your home.
Right.
If
And
you want to engage in that type of activity, don't use your work, your work phones, your work emails where you're going to get caught.
right.
And that just shows his true character. And I said this, that someone like this is born like this. This is not learned behavior. It's inside him, and then there's probably some trigger points through his life that empowers him. And probably
Yeah.
what happened was, working his ranks through the Mass State Police, being around some other guys that probably engaged in nefarious activity like this as well, empowered him. Michael Proctor, his position in the MSP is about power. It's about impeding his power on innocent victims and using them as a punchline. That's what he did
Yep.
here. And
Yep.
it's pretty disgusting that someone that holds a badge and is supposed to protect people like this. I mean, for Christ's sakes, was there anything on there with like minors, things that he was investigating with minors and sharing that shit? I mean, I'm
Right.
just speculating here, but I mean, there's a world of information in different cases that he's part of. What other things that he was doing or involved in? It's just really disgusting to think about. It
I
just
agree.
really, it makes me
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. His activity and involvement, and Brian, when you touched on in your statement, he was born that way. You know, unfortunately, the background check didn't capture any of the
Mm,
potential biases here. So I'm wondering, and again, I'm not a psychology guy, but I'm wondering if the power that comes with the badge was the catalyst that maybe unlocked something.
Yep.
Show off in front of your old high school buddies, high profile case. I mean, it doesn't get any more high profile in the media than murder investigations anywhere. So, I'm wondering if, just made it through the state police academy. Oh, by the way, I'm no longer on the street. I made it to a specialty unit. And we went back and forth many, many shows
Mm,
ago about what was proper punishment.
yeah.
And I made the statement that when you have to leave an office, um, career wise, that's discipline. And it just I'm
Yeah.
only suggesting that it comes in different forms because that takes you into your next career, having those types of bona fides in your resume. It opens doors big time for you.
Hmm.
Um, and when you're disciplined and you're gonna have to explain why you had a short term or a short time, within a very elite division of the department, it doesn't look good for you.
No.
Mm. That's very true. P from Boston's adding, said, "Hey, this is learned behavior. It was reinforced for years in both his personal and professional lives. He was not born that way." And listen, you have your take on this. I think that some of that stuff, just my opinion, is inside, and I think I'm going on the side of what Todd is saying here is that somewhere along the line this gets triggered. It's like serial killers, I guess.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
they're born that way and they just get into nefarious stuff. I just watched the that Ed Gein thing. It was a 8 part series on Netflix, and it kind of unwinds his life of how he started to become this notorious serial killer and the trigger points that kind of triggered him into that. So I think that some of that is, and again, I'm not a psychologist either. I'm just speculating here, but I think it's probably some things that are inside that get triggered.
Yep.
So,
You
And
know,
then
but
those
uh,
around him may also be those, meaning those employed law enforcement personnel were probably enabling him. I do
Mhm.
agree that there's no obstacle to further investigation being opened now to look into who were the recipients of some of these text messages. Were there other law enforcement officers, either at the police level, at the DA
Excuse me.
level, or at the state police level, who were fostering this type of behavior or not disavowing it? I think there will be more questions that arise and more disciplinary proceedings. And also, as the article stated, this will likely affect hundreds of other cases. And to use Miles King as an example, who is innocent until proven guilty,
Right.
but it does appear to some that he may be guilty. And I'm not really going to be on your platform giving my opinion, although I've given it previously on other platforms. But look at this. There were likely racially charged text messages by Proctor. His case will be affected. And ultimately, a lot of different things can happen. Charges can get dismissed, the charges can get downgraded. He could be found not guilty, even though he possibly is guilty. If he is found not guilty, he then could also bring a civil rights action, which will have dramatic, not only newsworthy, but also financial ramifications on the state. So this has far reaching tentacles, as JFK would, that's to use
JFK.
his term. There's
Yeah.
tentacles here.
Yeah. It's insane. And this is going to drag on for years and years and years. I mean, the ripple effect of this could be, I'm only speculating here, 10, 20 years of
Hmm.
cases that he has backlogged that's going to come forward. And the defense attorneys are just going to have a platter to work with and put through these motions and say, no, let's look at the text messages.
Yep.
And judges and prosecutors are going to be battling this for years. It's
and explain your behavior, former trooper.
yeah. Yeah, and then, this guy might be called as a witness now for years in trial, and he's gonna
Hmm.
have to go through every pile of text messages like he did, which I love the torture in this, that he potentially have to get on the stand and explain these text messages. But unfortunately, there probably will be some people that are flat out guilty, and they may end up walking because of his behavior. The lead investigator on a case. It's haunting. It's
It's
literally haunting.
pathetic. It's really pathetic. And to think that his wife, this is my personal opinion, to
Sure.
think that his wife went at people, reached out to some of their employers, has been on mainstream media, defending him. And I understand. I mean, he's her
Excuse
husband,
me.
but at the same time, I'm going to not hold my breath waiting for her to come forward with some type of public statement disavowing his conduct. It is conduct unbecoming of a state trooper and frankly of a human being.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Before we get into this, I just want to pop up. Let's just do some of these really quick. Teresa, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Mike G, thank you. NH Dude 603, good to see you here, Steve. Maybe have Nan give you her preference of male fragrance. Okay. Well, okay.
Oh,
I'll check that out.
I have many. I have
Okay.
many.
And then behind Blue Eyes, $5. I could spend hours telling you disgusting stories of my ex-father-in-law, state trooper, now retired, and many co-workers. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So let's see here. In a court filing on Friday, Norfolk County prosecutors said they found images, and here we go. It just adds more to the fire of intimate body parts and other sensitive information during a review from the Massachusetts State Police former Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor's personal phone. Prosecutors sought and were granted an order shielding the context of the phone. Stop shielding it. Let's see it.
Mhm.
Defense lawyers in cases investigated by Proctor will receive a copy of the extraction, but won't be able to give copies to their clients. Could we say that maybe this gets leaked somewhere? I
Oh,
could see that
sure.
happening. I
I'm
could see that
sure.
happening, and
I
deservingly
don't,
so.
I don't understand why they can't give a copy to their clients, but that's unusual to me. I was surprised when I read that. But yes, I'm
Hmm.
sure it'll get leaked.
Says
You know,
on
even
phone. Go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
whether it's leaked or not, it's amazing that what was shared was enough to compel him to withdraw his appeal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because you
Oh,
can
it's
still
bad.
say there's an argument, all right, whatever's there is there. I can't change the past, but I'm still going to go forward with my argument to try and get my job back.
Yeah. Yeah. Romeo Charlie, look at this. $5 says Brian, retired cop here. Love what you're doing. Stay focused and stay the course. And of course, and we have these two lovely guests on the show tonight too. If you're new over here, Romeo, we do these every Monday night, usually at 6, 7 o'clock. We have two wonderful people on here that gives their expertise on this. And that's the wonderful thing behind this. Behind Blue Eyes, thanks for the two. Only gets worse during my divorce towards me. Yikes. Okay.
Hmm.
So it says on the phone, prosecutors say they found a text chat with highly sensitive information. This includes images of intimate body parts of people not participating in the chat, screenshots of Facebook posts by non-participant images and non-participants, full phone numbers and or personal email addresses of the text chain participants, and the name of a sexual assault a victim. Good stuff here. This is the clearest insight to the date about the information that was on Proctor's phone beyond the demeaning text message he sent about Karen Reed during his investigation into the death of boyfriend John O'Keefe. Proctor was in the middle of an appeal. We've already know about this. Material. Let's see this. Let's say they found materials that it was reasonably believed to be discovered on his phone that include texts and chats, as well as a video and audio files, according to the prosecutor. In any case, discoverable evidence must be shared between prosecutors and defense attorneys. The extraction from Proctor's personal phone also recovered emails and photos prosecutors wrote in the court filing last week. Yikes. Yeah. Information from Proctor's personal phone will be turned over in 3 pending murder cases and a case of a woman charged with accessory to murder after defense lawyer in those cases sought access records from the phone. The case are those of Mile King, Sean Johnson, Javon, that's De Los Santos, and Bianca. I'm going to probably butcher this last name. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to attempt. And
I
it says
can't.
all were charged with murder. I don't want to be offensive to the person, but I'm going to mess that last name up. Wow. Oh, listen to this. After prosecutors filed their note on October 16th, the union representing the state police withdrew its support for Proctor's appeal, leaving him without an attorney. Proctor withdrew his appeal last week. So goodbye, good riddance. See you later, Michael Proctor. And I'm going to tell you, this is not the last that we're going to probably hear of this guy.
I have a question
Absolutely
for
not.
Todd on that. Do you
Sure.
have any opinion, Todd, about the withdrawal of the support of the union? Does that impact how you view what has transpired? Is that the death knell, or would that have been the death knell, proverbial death knell, for Proctor in this?
I think any analysis would have been he's not forthright in coming. There's more really heavy negative stuff that's coming up. And, we talked about this earlier, whatever it is, Nan, you articulated very well, based on dealing with your clients. Like whatever's out there, we just need to know about it.
Yeah.
And no one wants to get caught sideways.
Yeah, it's
And
almost
it
like they
just,
they don't want to bet on the wrong
yeah,
horse. I
yeah.
apologize for interrupting.
No worries. And I think that's the case, that they're just going to cut their loss, based on incomplete, or what's the word, inaccurate information. However you want to frame it. Based on that, we're going to remove our support for
Right.
Michael Proctor.
So Todd, now he's lost the support of the union. He now loses his lawyer. I'm sure that there's probably a lot of friends, in his life and family members that have probably lost some support. What happens to this guy now? What does he do? Where does he go? Does he ever, I don't really care about him reviving himself. Do normally people like this that smear the badge, smear the occupation, do they end up just kind of getting buried and lost in time, or what happens to some of these guys?
Well, it's interesting that Proctor is one of the younger guys that I've seen get jammed up. I can share with you the CDL scandal. Um, all of those troopers are friends of mine. I
Wow.
was close with all of them, and but they were all, some had already retired, and they were at the end of their career. In this particular case, young family. Proctor's got a young family, no pension that he can pull from. Um, you know, Maybe he becomes a private investigator somewhere.
Scary.
Maybe, yeah. If he decides to stay within that realm of public safety, or attached to public safety in some fashion or form. Um, but trying to get on another police department, this has to follow him. It has
Hmm.
to.
Nan, you think this guy sees charges?
I think he might. Someone asked that in your chat a short while ago. I think he might. I don't know exactly where they would fit because I haven't
Mm,
seen the text messages. But for example, if there was what appears to be lewd and lascivious content, not just slurs or any subject matters like homophobia or racism, but if there was the sharing of profanity and pictures that are not optimal to be shared, there could be a whole slew of additional charges. Well, not just additional charges that could befall Proctor. So I truly hope that he has previously exhibited some morals when not sharing private pictures of people on their phones. And I was thinking about this when I heard that this broke, and from images and content being captured from 2013, like just in thinking about my phone, like I have pictures of my children, I have pictures of bath time growing up and that type of thing, which are innocuous to me, but I'd hate for someone to share those. And I have no trust or faith that Proctor could exhibit any restraint in what he would share with other people. It's really disgusting. And I hope that if charges are being contemplated, that there is a follow through. There needs to be a zero tolerance approach to this by Colonel
yeah.
Noble and anyone else who's got eyes and hands on this.
Yeah.
I during the trial when Jackson had Proctor on the stand, I think during cross, he had him read through the list of texts, and one of them was no nudes yet. That
Yeah.
Mhm.
text. And
Right.
at first, I kind of heard that as like a tongue-in-cheek, kind of like joking statement. But then, after learning more and more, that's a pattern of behavior.
Mhm.
It's almost as if his audience was waiting
Yep.
based on
Oh,
past
you're very
practice,
true. Yeah.
right?
And there's
That's
probably multiple text streams about women that he's been involved with in cases and looked at.
100%.
And this is their text stream. And he said, I'm in their phone. Let's see what we got, stuff like that. I mean, look, we heard about it in Karen's case.
But you know what's
It's so
another
dead on, Todd.
sorry to interrupt. You know, there's
That's
another
good.
interesting part of this, which I haven't heard many people discuss at all, which is there are recipients of these text messages. There are people in these text chains. I am certain some of them were in law enforcement, but whomever those recipients and participants were, whether they were active or passive participants, this case, meaning Karen Reed's case, was in the headlines everywhere. And I am not aware that anyone came forward to talk about the fact that, hey, this wasn't the first time with this guy. We received text messages, or I received text messages that were inappropriate from Proctor. So, on a law enforcement level, whomever, pick any law enforcement officer, if he or she had previously received or was on a text chain with Proctor where inappropriate information was either texted or shared, they should have spoken up. And this goes back to a recurrent theme that I know the three amigos have talked about, which is, speak up. You're part of honoring your profession. You can't just sit back and just allow this to happen. And it goes to different cases like Francis Gigliotti, where people just allowed that pig pile to happen. No one was speaking up. All of the different cases that we've been talking about, I'm really bothered by the fact that there's this just blue wall that no one wants to breach. No one is confident enough to criticize and get bad actors like Proctor in trouble. I'm hoping that tide turns as well. People should be forthcoming to stop behavior like this, or it's going to persist.
There's a movie called Unlawful Entry. It's
Oh,
got
yeah.
Kirk Douglas and Ray Liotta in it. And
Hmm.
Ray Liotta plays a pretty crazy cop and sees Kirk Douglas's wife one night. They have an intruder or a break-in in their house, and they respond to the call, him and his partner. And he ends up having this, in fact, Ray Liotta's character, the cop, ends up having this infatuation with um, uh, Kirk Douglas's wife, and Madeline Stowe plays her. Wow, this is all coming back to me.
Yeah,
But
I
my
love
bigger
that
point in
movie.
all of this is, after a while of the harassment from and I almost said Proctor, but this Ray Liotta's character, he goes to see the partner, and he's walking in his house, and he says, "Hey, I need your help. He's after my wife." And he says, I don't know what I can do. I can't help you. And he said, I
Hmm.
see how this is. And I'm going to the blue wall comment you made, and says, I see how this is, you guys on one side and us on the other. And he turns to him and he says, yeah, it's kind of like that. And then he just says, come on, man, I really need your help. He walks in his house, but then decides to do the right thing and comes out and gives him the opportunity to speak and listens to
Hmm.
him. And then later in the movie, his partner tries getting to Ray Liotta to say, hey, maybe you need to go see a doctor and get yourself checked out. But ultimately, he ends up, Ray Liotta's character kills his partner. But anyway, it's a great movie. Check it out. But I wanted to make that analogy to this situation as well, too. I
That
don't know
is a
how
great
I
movie.
recalled all of that from like the 90s, but I did.
That is a great movie for your audience. You should watch that. Ray
Yeah.
Liotta was like so good in that movie.
Yeah.
And
It's a great movie.
if your crazy cop fix hasn't been satisfied yet, you should watch it.
Yeah, it's a good 90s movie with 3 great actors
Hmm.
in it. So, I digress on that. But yeah, I think this is gonna have major implication for years. And, I get satisfaction if Michael Proctor has to get on a stand over and over and over again with a pile of text messages and explain to explain what was the context of those and what they are. And I'm gonna say this too, I'll add this before we move on to Karen Reed. I love the fact that in trial 2 that Alan Jackson printed out the stack of text messages and not only didn't have Michael Proctor come up and do it, he had his boss, Yuri Buchanan,
Hmm.
pretty much was going to have him read through all of them. Actually, I think he did have read through most of them. And I remember Yuri saying, "Do you want me to read all of them? I mean, this will take all day." And he's like, said some comment. I forget what it was, but it was pretty good. So fuck him. He was in those text streams too. He knew what was going on. And to Nan's point, he had the opportunity to say stop.